Some men are not lazy. They are just stuck waiting for permission. They wake up early, drive to work half awake, check a silent phone at red lights, lift at the gym after work, stand in a dark kitchen at night wondering why nothing feels clear. Then one day it hits them. Maybe the missing answer was never the problem. Maybe the problem was waiting too long to move. He was the kind of man who looked fine from the outside. He showed up to work, answered emails, hit deadlines, paid rent on time, went to the gym often enough to feel like he was still trying. Nothing about his life looked broken. That was the strange part, because inside something had gone still. Every morning felt borrowed. Every commute felt the same. Same office lights, same half-finished conversations, same drive home with the radio low and his mind somewhere else. At night he would sit in his kitchen with one small light on, phone face up on the table. No call, no text that changed anything, no sudden clarity. He kept telling himself he was just in a transition, just in a quiet season, just waiting for direction. But weeks turned into months. And the small crack began there, not in failure, in delay. Because a man can survive pressure for a long time, what starts to break him is the feeling that his life is paused, and nobody told him how to unpause it. He had a habit he did not notice at first. Whenever life felt unclear, he became more passive. Not careless, not reckless. Passive. He would think longer instead of acting, reflect more instead of deciding, pray for guidance, then do nothing with the silence that followed. He told himself he was being patient, wise even, but patience can hide a deeper fear, because sometimes a man is not waiting on God. He is waiting to avoid being wrong. He wanted certainty before effort, a sign before commitment, a feeling before movement. So he stayed in the same job even after it drained him, kept certain conversations unfinished, kept telling himself he would change once it all made sense. But life did not reward that. The days kept moving anyway. Bills came anyway. His body got tired anyway. His respect for himself dropped in quiet, almost invisible ways. That was the pattern. He did not collapse all at once. He slowly weakened by handing his agency over to the future. He thought he needed revelation. What he really needed was the ability to move without it. The shift did not begin in church, or in some perfect morning journal entry. It started on an ordinary night. He left work late. The parking lot was almost empty. His shoulders were tight. His head felt full, but not with anything useful. He drove to the gym because he always did. Not from motivation, from habit. Inside the place was half quiet. A few men on treadmills, weights clanking in the distance, TV screens glowing over machines nobody was really watching. He stood there longer than usual between sets, not tired enough to leave, not focused enough to keep going, just there. Then something simple crossed his mind. A thought so plain it almost sounded stupid. Nothing is coming. No perfect feeling. No sudden confidence. No clean sign that removes all doubt. And for a second that thought hurt. Because he had built so much of his waiting around the idea that eventually something outside him would unlock the next chapter. A message. An opportunity. A spiritual certainty. A moment that made action feel safe. But standing there under fluorescent lights, sweat cooling on his skin, he saw the truth more clearly than he had in months. His life was not being blocked by a lack of answers. It was being delayed by his dependence on them. That realization did not make him feel inspired. It made him feel exposed, because now he had to admit something harder than confusion. He had been hiding inside it. Confusion gave him cover. It let him postpone decisions without calling it fear. It let him keep hoping tomorrow would rescue what he would not confront today. But once he saw that the silence changed, it no longer felt like abandonment. It felt like a mirror. Maybe there was no voice, because the next step was already obvious. Wake up earlier. Train harder. Spend less. Speak directly. Stop romanticizing your potential and start respecting your habits. None of that sounded profound. That was the problem. He wanted something deeper, something symbolic, something that made his life feel chosen. Instead, what stood in front of him was discipline. Plain, repetitive, unglamorous discipline. And that was the first real shift. He stopped asking what he felt called to do in some distant dramatic sense. He started asking what a self-respecting man would do tomorrow morning. The next few weeks were not cinematic. No breakthrough music, no huge announcement, no sudden glow in his chest. Just small changes that felt almost too small to matter. He got up when the alarm rang, not after 3 delays. He cleaned the kitchen before bed, kept promises to himself that nobody else could see. He trained even on low-energy days, spent less time staring at his phone, talked less about what he might do, and did more of what was already in reach. But the strange thing about discipline is that it changes a man before it changes his life. His circumstances were still mostly the same. Same job, same apartment, same quiet phone, same long drives at night. Yet something inside him was tightening back into place. Because order creates signal. And when a man stops leaking energy into indecision, he starts hearing himself again. Not a fantasy version. The real one. The one who knows when he is making excuses. The one who knows when he is drifting. The one who does not need applause to do what must be done. There were still nights he felt behind. Still mornings he wanted some bigger reassurance. Still moments where he wondered if discipline was just another way to stay numb. But this time, he did not spiral outward. He stayed with the work, and slowly confusion lost its power. Not because he solved his whole life, because he stopped worshiping clarity more than action. The peak came quietly. One night he came home late again, dropped his keys on the counter, looked at the same kitchen that used to make him feel empty. But this time it felt different. Not warmer, not easier, cleaner. He stood there in the silence and realized he no longer needed it to explain itself. He no longer needed the night to hand him meaning, or the future to reassure him, or God to make the next 10 years visible before he took the next honest step. That was it. He had asked for direction, but what he needed was the strength to keep moving without full visibility. And somehow, that felt more sacred than the sign he had been begging for. Nothing magical happened after that. His job did not instantly transform. His loneliness did not disappear. His doubts did not die. But his relationship to himself changed. And that changed everything that mattered first. He became more direct in small places, less dramatic in his head, less dependent on emotional momentum, more anchored in what he could actually control. The gym felt different. Not like escape, like maintenance. The kitchen felt different. Not like evidence of isolation, like a place he returned to in order. Even the drive home at night changed. It was still dark, still quiet, still just him behind the wheel. But it no longer felt like he was being carried by a life he did not understand. It felt like he was inside it again. That is what discipline gave back to him. Not perfection. Participation. He stopped seeing himself as a man waiting for his real life to start. He started living like the hidden part of life was already happening now inside ordinary choices no one would ever praise. That gave him a kind of peace excitement never could. Because excitement is unstable. Self-respect is not. Some men spend years asking for a clearer map, and sometimes the map never comes. Not because they are forgotten. Not because they are cursed. Not because they are meant to fail. Sometimes it does not come because the next lesson is smaller, harder, and more honest than that. Wake up. Do the work. Hold the line. Keep moving while the road is still dim. That kind of life does not look impressive from far away, but from the inside it changes a man. Because he no longer needs every step to feel certain. He only needs to know he can trust the one taking it. And maybe that is what inner control really is. Not having all the answers. Just becoming someone who no longer falls apart without them. In the end, the silence did not give him direction. It gave him back himself.